Four here.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right,
we
we
can't
got
see you.
four up here, so we got a quorum. We're at
But we can't,
one
but we
exit.
can't see you. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Much better.
We have five up here.
Hi, Rob.
5. Okay, well, we're doing well then. All right, today is February 28th, 2020. It's just after 1 o'clock. We're going to call a meeting of the Board of Indigent Defense to order. We are in the Capitol Building at 101 North Carson Street in the old Assembly Chambers in Carson City. We are by video conference to the Grant Sawyer Building at 555 East Washington Street, Suite 5100 in Las Vegas. Could we get a roll call just for the record, please? Thank you.
Just minor correction, we're in room 5.
Four, yeah.
Say again?
We're in 5400, not 5100 today because we were moved. So I just wanted to make that
If
correction.
anybody was listening to me on the internet, we're on 5400. The agenda is public. We have it at 5400. We got to move around down there a little bit, otherwise they put you guys in a closet down there.
They tried.
They try, I know. Okay, go.
Okay. Mayor Bob Crow,
Here.
Chris June Kiliani,
Here.
Well done. Very good.
Professor Ann Traum,
Here.
Laura Fitzsimmons, here, Rob Tellis,
Here.
Julie Kavanaugh Bill, Joni Easley, Dave Mendiola, Jeff Wells,
Here.
Drew Christensen,
Here.
Kate Thomas, and Justice William Moppin.
I can't tell if
This is on. They're doing
We have a
it this
quorum.
way.
okay. I'm assuming.
Thanks.
Okay.
Feel free to kick me anytime, man. That's okay. I need it.
Not on camera.
That's all right. All right, we're going to call, let's move on to item number 2, public comment. Anybody members of the public want to comment? We might be able to take comment as we go through the agenda items as well, depending on where we are.
We have Ms. Forsman here, but she said she'll just wait and see.
Okay. So I don't see any public comment down in Las Vegas, is that correct? Except, I know Franny's down there. So Franny, when you want to comment, just raise your hand or jump in or set an airplane up here, all right? All right, anybody up here in Carson City want a public comment? Anybody? Okay, then we're gonna move on to the minutes, possible approval of the minutes of January 29th, 2020. Everybody had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes?
Motion's in order.
Mr. Chair, I have one minor correction. It's at the bottom of page 8. And just to correct the spelling of a last name, it's Lorena Dellinger with an E, Dellinger, D-E-L-L.
Will you make a
It
motion
was a
to
vowel.
approve that change?
Yes, that's
there-
my motion,
is there-
to approve with that change.
Is there a second?
There's also one other, if we're doing that, there's one other minor change. On page 1, my last name is misspelled.
Hard to hear.
They got
hard
mine
to hear,
right
guys.
and yours. It's kind of funny, actually.
They never misspell mine.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I'll amend my motion to include that correction as well.
All right, the maker of the motion wants to withdraw the motion and re-amend. The seconder up here, Julie's the seconder, so she'll withdraw your motion to second. Okay, on the motion, make a new motion then. Just for the record, make a motion.
Oh, I was amending my original motion to,
Yeah, go ahead, do it again, so we've got a good,
to include the additional correction in the spelling of the last name.
all right. There's a motion and a second on the motion. Everybody understand what we're doing? Okay, on the motion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried, okay. All right, let's take up item number 4. This is the report from Marcy of the department. Marcy, you ready to go?
We are. Sitting over at the table in Carson City. She just recently started. We have our management analyst, Jason Colnett, to help us with our budget build. He starts March 2nd, and we currently have one open position of a management analyst, and this is for the data collection position. So we are still working to fill that position. But I'd also like to introduce Patrick McGinnis. He is our new deputy director, and he is in charge of traveling to the rurals. So I wanted to give him an opportunity to talk to the board.
Tell us where you've been, Patrick. In the wars that you've, or at least the kind of wars that you've been dealing with there. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been on the job for approximately 3 weeks now. I've been on the road, got covered almost 900 miles, about 12 hours on the road in that period of time. I've been to Mineral County, I've been to Pershing County, and I've been to Humboldt County. The Humboldt County and Pershing County meetings were very productive. I met with the judges, the justice of the peace. I met with the public defenders, the alternate public defenders, also met with the prosecutors. They are receptive to the idea of the department and to the board Shirley sent out. We've set up a meeting for Judge Shirley on the 13th of March, and it's at 10 a.m. Mayor Crowell's going to be attending that meeting along with Jared Hickman and Marcy Reba, and we invite any other board members if they wish to attend that meeting as well to discuss any of the concerns that Judge Shirley may have. We currently have March 17th for Ely as well, so we're out there spreading the word, trying to
Frying pan into the fire. We appreciate it very much, and we look forward to traveling up there to Lovelock and keep us up to date on what's going on in the counties around the state.
certainly thank you, Mayor.
All right, Marcy, anything else?
No, we would just ask to go on to item number 5, which Mr. Hickman is going to discuss.
Okay. Let me say, I was over at the offices, if you haven't made it, the offices are kind of like indigent defense offices. They're kind of Spartan, but they're much better than working out of a closet. So
But they're gonna get new carpet.
they're gonna get new carpet, that's right. But if you're in Carson City, please stop by and say hello there. You could obviously stop by and say hello to me. I happen to be right across the street from where we're having this meeting here, so, just, you know, they're over on Nye Lane, West Nye Lane? Yeah, okay, all right. Let's take up, item 5. This is a presentation of substance a little bit, is, if we're gonna get standards, if we're gonna get regulations done, we have to go to a workshop. That's the formal way to kick these things off. And so at the end of this, we're gonna be looking to see if we could all agree on whether or not we could open up a workshop to put out some of these regulations, or all of them that we've got drafted. They're not necessarily in regulation form right now, but we'd like to put them out, because that'll get it started. So we'll see where that goes. So Jared, you wanna go from there?
Thank you, Chairman. Jared Hickman for the record. We have provided the proposed minimum standards and regulations to all board members. As Mr. McGinnis has identified, we are making substantial efforts to solicit feedback from, all interested parties in the rules. Given our time frame with respect to the rulemaking process, essentially our request to the board today is, are we headed in the right direction? And if so, may we get the board's approval to begin that rulemaking process by setting a workshop at our next meeting? I think tentatively we've got that. Is there anything that should be removed entirely, or anything that the board expected to see there that is not there? And if this is the general direction, we're proposing that we set the workshop for March 26th, so we can begin the, what I'd call minutia discussion, the debates over the actual language.
Everybody in Las Vegas hear that one from Jared?
Yeah,
Yes.
March 26th, where would that be?
Sorry, microphone difficulties. I anticipate that we will set it up in a similar format, that it will be here and both in Clark County as well. We will get the space reserved once we get that date set, but a similar format, one presentation here in Carson and then also in Clark County.
If I might follow up, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, would that then anticipate that we would just have that as part of our normal board meeting, or are your thoughts to have it beforehand?
Our thought process is that it would be part of the normal board meeting, and I suspect that it will dominate, the vast majority of the agenda that day, but
Okay.
part and parcel to the board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Workshop, like a term of art that needs
I think we could do that. I think we could do that, have it part of the board meeting. Sometimes they're set up separately. Go ahead, Jared.
I'm curious, Jen, during at the end of the workshop or at some point during the meeting?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. Yes, we are anticipating that at the conclusion of our meeting that same day, that we would be in a position to vote upon any changes and then move this to the next stage in the proceedings. And just to provide some, I guess, reason that we're getting the workshop scheduled and wanting to move forward is in speaking with our Deputy Attorney General, who I believe is present in Las Vegas. Our time frame is a little truncated. We have to have it to the Legislative Council Bureau by June, and August is kind of our deadline. Anything after that, we get into next year's legislative session, and I don't think we're prohibited from making regulations at that point, but they would be temporary in nature and be a repetitive process. So that's kind of our time frame.
The deputy, I forgot your first name, our DAG. Cynthia,
Sophia,
Sophia. You okay with all that?
Yes, and that was my recommendation.
Good thing you're okay with it.
time
All
crunch.
right. Go, Julie.
And my understanding with the workshop was, that was gonna be to also get some input from stakeholders in the rules. I know we got comments from Judge Shirley, but we also got comments from Humboldt County, White Pine, Eureka, the Elko PD, I spoke with them. There's a lot of, discussion happening over these standards, and it's gonna impact those areas. So would it be possible, I know there's gonna be meetings in the rurals, but my concern is that not everyone's gonna hear what's discussed there and why there might be concerns about, you know, the language and the standards. Is there a possibility we could do some kind of workshop out in a rural area? And I mean, Elko, Ely.
So we have discussed I mean, I guess for my answer to that is going to be two-pronged. One, this initial workshop is not the end of the process. It's my understanding, again, through consultation with our Deputy Attorney General. So, Sophia, please correct me if I'm wrong. This is the first of two workshops, and then a third opportunity for public comment at a public hearing before they become making significant effort to get out and get the comment, understand the jurisdiction's concerns as a department. What I think we'll be encouraging them to do is place that comment or any significant concern in writing so that it can be provided to this board, similar to what we did with Judge Shirley's comments that we received via email. So that way there is a record of it and it's understood and considered and to some extent, or to the extent possible, debated.
Okay. Can we set up video links for some of these counties? We'll look at the IT back there. Can we set up video links? Say, we got a video link between Las Vegas and Carson City. Can we add two or three more video links? One, say, for Elko or Ely or something like that. Can we do that here or not? Or do we have that? We don't have that capability? Okay.
We do with IDC on yeah.
All right.
All the legislative, all of the meeting rooms in the legislature are filled? Because that would be one way to do it if we,
Looking at the executive branch rooms.
where we always held
Rooms.
the IDC meetings over there. And that way they can sign on through the internet, yeah. Yeah, anybody can.
This is Ann. I have a question.
Go ahead, Ed.
So I'm just curious because I wasn't clear and maybe I missed it, but are you taking this draft with you when you meet with the rurals to kind of explain the process to them? And will it be posted to them what the sort of general timetable is for the 3 meetings so that they understand the multiple opportunities for input?
Thank you for the question, Professor. Yes, we are. First of all, a copy of this draft is posted on our website under the Standards and Regulations tab. Second, when we send out our email, either requesting or confirming a meeting with the stakeholders in the jurisdictions, we are including a copy of the proposed standards and regulations as well. And then I guess kind of the third prong of that tripartite attack is that when we get out there, we are reviewing them and explaining them with the stakeholders, and we will be explaining the rulemaking process as well to make sure that those 3 opportunities for comment are well-defined and explained.
Go ahead, Julie.
Thank you.
And following up on that, are we gonna have that rulemaking process and the general timetable set forth in writing? Because I think that would be useful for folks to have that ahead of time.
If that is something that is useful, we can certainly work with Sophia Long and get that time frame written out and published so everyone has a copy of it and we're all working with the same deck of cards.
All right, anything else? Go ahead.
Question?
Chris has a comment
Chris.
down here.
Thank you. I think that makes good sense on the timelines and probably, something it's the initial comments and put a cutoff period, because I think it would be helpful as staff, maybe 5 days before the meeting where we talk about this, kind of for the non-attorneys in the room, had, section 8, 10 and 12 were, just so White Pine had concerns, Pershing had concerns, so-and-so. So that it breaks it out rather than just in a email format. It might be clearer for everybody. So as we go through, we don't discount comments that were made appropriately. And I'm sorry to make more work, but I think that might be helpful.
And just real quick, Chris, as far as cutting off, doing a timeline for
Right.
comments, we can't do that because
Okay.
that's what the actual workshop is for too. So if somebody wants to come during
True.
the workshop and make comments, they can still do that.
Yeah,
So-
I was thinking submitting in writing.
Okay.
And then, yes, you still have your period, but, if you want to put written comments, we'd like to have them so we can compile them. If something comes in after that, what we used to do is we would still attach anything that came in after that, including the day of, but at least we've got something compiled to reflect what's come up to a certain date. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, and we've got no issue compiling those written comments in a more useful form. Just the timeframes under which these came in, we wanted to make sure
Yeah,
that
just
they were in front of the board. So we'll do a better job of getting those in a more useful format for our next session.
Go.
Jared, I'll be coordinating, collecting those comments for Nye County. Is it appropriate to send this document to the public defenders?
I know it's not here on the agenda, but let me just ask, because we're moving pretty fast here, so I want to ask if any member of the public want to address this issue? I don't see it.
Hi, Fran.
Member of the public.
I'm not pointing a finger at you, Franny, I just want to make sure that, sometimes, we do it, the public comment at the first and the last of the meeting. Sometimes it's helpful to do public comment as we go through all these individual ones. It gives more
Yeah.
sense of inclusivity and also helps, I think, make the decision a little bit more sound. So anything else we need to know on this one? Go, Julie.
One more thing on the list, I know Joni's been contacting folks in Nye, and I've been talking to people up in my area, but I just don't want us to forget anyone, and then they find out about these after the fact. So maybe if the department can get us the list, because I know there's a list that the staff is using, and then I can send what contact information I have, and maybe Joni, make sure we're covering everybody.
Myself an email to send the email.
Marcy Reba, for the record, that's a great idea. We are planning on sending a letter from our department to all the judges, the district court judges, and attach that. We are compiling all the email addresses for the judges, and we want to make sure that we send it to everyone that would have an interest in this. So that's ultimately our goal.
So then I don't really need to coordinate that. I know that the Bar Association had reached out to a bunch of counties. Didn't you tell me the bar?
The state bar sent me a list of names, so I sent it to those, but like
okay.
Nye County was
But
not
they-
on there.
yeah.
I think some people aren't on there.
Yeah, okay. So if you're doing that, then I'm not gonna do it. I just assumed, based on the list the bar sent out, that, all right, never mind, thank you.
So you know, Marcy, I happened to be with Max Cortez, the court administrator in Carson City, and I went up to her and I was going to say, you're going to get a call from, I already got a call from Marcy already this morning. So you're ahead of the 8 ball, that's a good move, all right. So we're going to meet with all 4 judges up there, she'll set that up, right, okay, all right. Anything further on discussion on this?
Nothing further from the department, Chairman.
Pardon me, nothing?
Nothing further
All right.
from the department.
Board, are we ready to send this to a workshop? All right, motion's in order. Go.
I make a motion
Laura.
to send it to workshop. Okay, let, let Laura go.
Mr. Simmons, go.
I second it.
We need a first motion somewhere. Oh, Judge Moffin's up here too. Record will reflect Judge
Oh,
Moffin's up here.
I was making it, but I'm happy to second Laura's, whatever works best.
Okay, Chris, okay, I got it, Chris. Okay, thanks. I'm sorry. On the motion, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I apologize, Chris. Thank you. Motion passes.
That's okay.
All right. Let's now deal with complaints and recommendations, item number 6. Who's going to do this? Marcy?
Yes, Marcy Reba for the record. Thank you, Chairman. I have had members of the board ask me to put this on the agenda. They don't know how they should respond when they receive a complaint from a member of the public, so we were hoping that the board could discuss to give other board members guidance. So that's the reason that I placed it on there. I had directed that a possible solution could be to direct them to our website to make a complaint. I know that that person was ultimately directed to the website, but there was no complaint filed. So as for an update on our complaints, we had our previous complaint, which didn't necessarily address indigent defense as a whole. So we did contact that person and we basically closed out that complaint. And we have no other complaints pending at this point in time. And as for the recommendations, those are what we've provided to you regarding our standards. So we're hoping for guidance to give to other board members as to how to deal with a complaint if you receive it.
You want to just run through that procedure just for the record so that people listening
Oh.
understand that? Go.
Just for the record, our department has a website, dids.nv.gov, and if you go to that website, there is a Contact Us tab where you can scroll down to complaint or recommendation. From there, you can reach a form where you could send in a complaint or recommendation to our department and would be able to deal with any sort of issue. We would just ask that if you do receive complaints, that they be forwarded to that information so that they can contact us directly.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from Las Vegas?
This is Ann. I just have a question. So if we were to receive like a letter from a prisoner, for example, should we fill out the website ourselves? Should we just forward the letter and someone will do it internally? Just what would we do with that kind of information?
Thank you, Professor Trom. I would say to forward the letter to our department.
Good. Thank you.
Any other comments or concerns from the South?
In the middle of the complaint procedure, that's why we have staff.
Amen to that. All right. We'll take a motion. Somebody want to make a motion? We don't need a motion on this one.
We get them all the time.
Yeah.
All right. Any public comment on this issue? Anybody? I don't see any record reflect no public comment. Okay, let's take up item number 7. B. Okay, let's do that. All right. Not used to doing it like this. Let's do 6B.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I did address this a little bit. We don't know if the board can give us some guidance of how we can bring awareness to our website. Not many people know about the Department of Indigent Defense Services, so we were looking for some possible guidance as to how to get the public to be aware of the complaint and recommendation process.
I have a suggestion on that. If you're going to be sending out the letter anyway, asking for input on the minimum standards, why don't you let them know about the complaint procedure and the website? I've tried to reach out to all of the justice court and district court judges in Nye County to let them know about the procedure, but it wouldn't be bad to maybe include that in the letter or have a separate letter.
And also, this is Laura Fitzsimmons. Don't courthouses still have to have bulletin boards?
Yes.
It's part of.
Yes.
So I think, everybody's in the hallway, clients, family, victims, everybody's in the hallway. I think if you just get, some brightly colored thing.
We could do a poster, a little poster
Yeah,
and.
whatever, or you could, but I think if it's posted in every justice court and courthouse and law library, to the extent we have them on the bulletin boards, I mean, it's just cheap and an easy way to get the word out.
And
Have a pocket folder
maybe
with
the jail
complaint
too.
forms.
Oh, yeah.
Guess that begs the question, what do you put on the poster? Are you creating a problem or are you solving a problem?
We're sharing information.
We're sharing information.
Be
Get
careful what,
coffee.
be careful what you put in print. All right.
I have a question, comment.
And Professor, go.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, Marcy, if there's been any coverage of your new office and you and your staff, and thought sort of at a minimum, if it's not already like in the Nevada, what's the name of the?
Independent.
Oh, the Nevada Independent, that was a little bit of coverage, but also in the, what's the bar? The State Bar Magazine?
Nevada lawyer?
Nevada Lawyer, yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, and my understanding is that the only article has been in the Nevada Independent. I haven't seen any other articles. So that might be a good option to look into as well.
All right. Anything else on this particular individual topic?
Counties could put it on their websites, couldn't they? This, Chris, just another, counties could be asked to put it on their website, you know, we have a new office and here's contact information. It doesn't have to take up much, but, you know, they run their banners and they do some things along those lines. This is huge. You all been trying to create this office for how many years, you know, so we should make sure that people know you exist.
I think about 12 years.
About
we've
12
tried to
years?
create
Yeah.
it.
And Chairman Kroll, just to let you know as well, and the board know, Patrick McGinnis did put together a survey that he sent out to all the attorneys that provide indigent defense services, asking questions about if we were to put together a training, where would you want it? How much of your training is, you know, in certain areas? So it's, if you'd like to see what the survey looks like, it is on our website. There's a specific link called survey, and we are asking, you know, for everyone that practices in indigent defense to fill that out and get it to us so we can collect that information as well.
And going back to the workshop form, are we going to have a place where people can upload their comments and potential revisions?
They can contact us. We are setting up a general email address where they can contact us. Right now, I believe that Ms. Atanasio's email address would be the contact point, or they are able to contact us through the complaints and recommendation process. So they can email us directly through the website or, you know, through our email address, or send us letters.
I think we probably should keep the complaint process on the side, and on the workshop stuff, in any formal communications like that should, you know, put in a letter who they contact and what the address is to send those comments to, because we'll be getting that. All right, just let people know. Okay. Anything else on 6B? 6 Charlie, update on any complaints? We already heard a little bit of that.
We did. I believe that I covered 6C and 6D, letting you know that we've provided you with the recommendations that we've received so far, and any complaints that we currently had pending are closed.
All right. Now let's take up, if we're ready to move on, let's take up item number 7. This is an update on the IFC request that we approved, to go before the Board of Examiners on April 14th and IFC on April 16th. Marcy.
Thank you, Chairman. That is correct. As this board gave us authority to go to the IFC to request funds, we did get approved for the Board of Examiners agenda on April 14th and the Interim Finance Committee agenda on April 16th. In the newest email, which I just sent out to you, I provided a copy of what we are requesting. Provide for training for indigent defense service providers, and $118,000 to contract with Legal Server to have a uniform case management or caseload tracking system throughout the rural counties. As for this, there were multiple case tracking programs that we have contacted, and that's where I talk about the discussion of the software proposals. I do know I have reached out to Elko. They were previously using Justware and are currently using Justware. My understanding is that Justware will no longer be supportive as of June of 2021. So they likely will be having to look for another software program to go to as well.
What do you guys
But we did reach out to that agency, or the agency that provides Justware, and they gave us a quote. They're called Journal. They gave us a quote of 300 to 400,000 for implementation, so we felt that was likely out of our price range.
Hang on one second, Marcy. Try turning your microphones off down in Las Vegas. See if we can hear a little better up here. Has anyone got a microphone on? Okay, thanks.
Oh,
Go
we
ahead.
just turned it off.
Turn it off, yeah, thank you.
So we did also reach out to Legal Server and Defender Data, and we felt that Legal Server was likely the best fit for what we were looking for and the reports that it could provide. And that's what we are going to be asking for in the $118,000 for implementation of a software system throughout the rurals.
This is Chris. I have a question, if I
Chris,
might.
go.
It's also used by Clark County and Washoe County, I believe, but obviously they wouldn't be included in our software. The other software systems
Why?
the other software systems we've become aware of are Abacus. That's what the Nevada State Public Defender uses. And then each attorney also has their own software system that they use as well. But many attorneys we've contacted love the idea of having a case management system because they couldn't otherwise afford to have something like that.
I totally agree with that, but I think for discussion purposes, if the urbans have invested in something that's going to be going away no matter what, that there should be some contact or discussion about helping to offset the costs for them to have to transition over. We probably ought to then make sure that if you have all your rurals will be, so making sure that if the others larger ones maybe got some dollar amount, to at least make sure that the case management interfaces, if it works better for larger counties versus smaller or something along those lines. But I think, if they've invested in that money, there should be something to ask IFC to assist to change out of that for those 3 counties. It's my thoughts.
Hey, Marcy, this is Jeff. The Justware folks, when they contacted us, were trying to get us to move to a system called eDefender. Have you checked that out yet? It's apparently new, but I wondered how it might cost in comparison to the other.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, I have contacted them. They have informed me, and this isn't an official amount of money that it would cost. I don't know why they didn't provide that, even though I requested, but I was told that implementation for a one-time cost would be $300,000 to $400,000. Conversion, depending on the data coming in, would be $30,000 to $60,000. Interfaces would be $15,000 to $60,000. There would be annual reoccurring costs of licensing, support, maintenance, and warranty of $75,000 to $100,000, depending on the number of users. And there's hosting of $50,000 to $75,000. So it was more than Legal Server. And I believe we were planning to reach out to individuals from Clark County to see what their plans were, if they were aware that Justware was no longer being supported, and also reaching out to Washoe County to see what their plans were to try and make a joint effort.
Marcy, this is Drew Christensen. We just had a meeting yesterday. We're aware that Justware is going away. So we had a meeting in IT with the public defender, special public defender, my office. The DA wasn't there, but they're aware as well. We're somewhat here in Clark County, at least, our hands are tied a little bit. A lot of us have been with Justware for decades, and so the amount of data that's already in the system is going to be hard to recreate if we went outside. Journal Technologies, that now owns Justware, is moving to what they call eDefender. They also have an e-prosecutor. That's probably where the DA's office is going, because our goal with all this with Justware was that in someday, at least in Clark County, our Justware links between the DA and the defense bar would allow for the integration back and forth of electronic discovery and filing and all the variety of things that we'd like to someday get to. That path is still ongoing with Justware. And if we go with eDefender and the DAs go with eProsecutor, they've committed to continue the support of JustWare until the integration is up and running with eDefender, eProsecutor. Now, the decision's not final, but all of us came out of that meeting kind of with the gut saying that's probably where we have to go, at least here in Clark County, because of the amount of data and familiarity we've had with JustWare over the decades. And so it's kind of a shock to all of us down here, but that's kind of where we're at of today. Obviously, there's a lot of water under the bridge between now and next year, but IT is in the process of providing us more information about the costs and chargeback to all of our departments. But that's kind of where we're at in Clark County.
Oh, I have another comment here from the public. Franny.
It's Franny Forsman for the record. Having done this on a national basis and worked with the folks implementing timekeeping programs on a national basis, I can't tell you how important it will be that with regard to the timekeeping function and the case tracking function, that even if you have to have different software, that somehow you make sure that the numbers can be compared. Because that's been our history in the Indigent Defense Commission. We have never been able to compare numbers between rurals and urbans because they keep the time different. Well, they don't keep time at all. Nobody keeps time. But the case management part of it is different. And so if there's some way that the way that it's designed, like the increments, is it 0.1 or is it every 15 minutes in time? Well, are you going to go to a timekeeping system in Clark County?
Well, not for purposes of, Office of Appointed Counsel. I don't believe the public defender and the special public defender have kept time either.
At some point, I'll tell you, you're going to want to have time from everybody because the whole issue of caseload and casework and all of that can't be done without timekeeping. It just can't be. And so you have to have everybody in the state keeping time in a similar way. That's my recommendation, that be looked at very closely.
Justify the position.
Marcy, here's a consideration as well, and I don't know what the costs ultimately are going to be for all the various licensing. We made a decision, I say we in the Office of Appointed Counsel in Clark County back 10 years ago, when we decided to go with JustWare, because at the time that's what the public defender and special public defender had, there was a consideration to have each one of our private counsel have licensing. Currently, we have 162 private lawyers, and the cost was astronomical if we had to support all those various licenses. Now, it makes a lot of work in-house, but what we decided is we just got licenses in-house, and the data, we require the private attorneys that you'll have throughout the rurals to report the data consistently, and then your in-house people input it into the system. That's just some consideration to maybe save money, and then you can control the type of information you want to receive. So you can get something from White Pine, get something from Mineral, and you can synthesize it, force them to submit it the way you like it. It's more work in-house, but then at least your database, you have some comfort that you have some consistencies around the various counties. So just a consideration.
Thank you, Drew. We are planning on providing this to the contract attorneys. That's actually a possibility with this legal server, and I can provide you with information about legal server if Clark County would like to look into it. My understanding is that Washington State is moving their public defender's office to legal server. Colorado is also moving their offices to legal server as well, and they're actually building a software system for that state of Colorado. They are able to receive information from the DA's office. Apparently, each file is created an email address. You send it to the DA and you say, please upload any discovery to this email address if it goes to the file. It also has some very advanced texting capabilities where attorneys can contact their clients through texting, which we all know that a lot of individuals don't have phones with minutes on it, but they can receive text messages. So it provides a lot more access, and it appears that in reading some emails from other agencies after an extensive search, they felt legal server was the best fit for them. And it also, the price fits into something that we're hoping we can get with IFC, the $300,000 to $400,000. I don't know if we would get approval for that.
So,
This, Chris, it never hurts to ask,
Yeah,
because,
sure.
I mean, in the long run, if we want this to work, we want as much capability there. I would also follow up with what Franny brought up to make sure that whoever transitions, that we do look at either a component or an add-on for it, some way to upload that and track that part of it. and I don't know for the very first meeting for IFC, maybe it's more a presentation of what you can do for the rurals, but that you'll be back to talk about some kind of assistance, maybe not the full cost, but assistance for the two urban areas to at least offset some of those costs for transitioning. Because in the long run, they took the initiative, and legislatively, we told them they had to do certain things, and we didn't give money. So at least maybe prep the IFC that there may be a request to come back in for some additional support.
And just to follow up with that, regarding this legal server, it is a timekeeping software in addition to a case management. We can set it up where the attorney's time will automatically upload to our office after whatever period we feel is appropriate. So we can basically have on time, knowing how many cases each person has. We're able to get that information basically immediately, is what I've been told when I've talked to legal server. So we'll have knowledge as to the caseloads for attorneys that they're currently handling, and we'll be able to get those reports uploaded automatically to us, so we don't have to rely on the attorney to upload it. They just have to fill in the time.
So understanding what you said, Marcy, and reflecting back on what Franny said and Drew said, no matter what the urbans end up with and you end up with, if you all say, okay, time will be reported in 0.1, decibels, not quarters of an hour, then Franny, would that be sufficient? As long as the time is reported in the same increment, does that address your concern statewide?
Okay, it addresses the increment. I don't know what the other technical problems might be that would cause, us not to be able to compare the data. So somebody needs to take a look at that, because I'm not sure, there may be other problems with that, but.
This is, Ann, you would want to sync the time and the field so that people are recording the same kind of work in the same kind of.
The definition of the action that you're.
Yes.
And you just click on it. So those two things, so that you could compare that, I think would be important. At least. And somebody else who knows a lot more about that part of it, of what you want to capture, is likely to know what needs to be consistent.
This is Ann. You guys are dealing with these, or hiring this data person. My guess is that person would have a very good, useful perspective on this, and could easily talk to other people to sort of just get those, to make sure that you're syncing and getting data that's comparable.
This is Chris. I just want to thank the IT people, because you all look like a Degas painting for us. It's beautiful, but it's like an impressionist painting is how you're coming across on our screen. Just saying. Oh, now you're back. The other was prettier.
Okay, Laura, you finished?
I'm done.
Okay. Jody?
$488,000 worth of total asks is a lot of money. The list that you have here, Marcy, are these competing priorities, or what's the number one? Is it the Delphi study?
I believe that they are all prioritized, so it's hard to say which would be the most important. We need all of these things when it really gets down to it. We need to have the Delphi study to create a caseload. We need to have the uniform time tracking software so that we know in a consistent, uniform manner how much time every attorney is spending on their cases, so that we can try and get them additional people if they need to have the additional people. We need to have the $20,000 for the training, because there is no set training where these attorneys can have a possible per diem paid for them to come in and get those 10 CLE credits that they need. And we want to be able to provide that to them, where we can assist them with their travel here, provide them with the training, and get them up to speed, which everyone is really on board with. And then the amount of money for our data analyst, that's a necessity as well, so that person can pinpoint us where are the true problems, where we really need to focus, and that's where we're going to turn our focus to next. So it's hard to say a priority of which one would I would choose, because I can't do that. They're all extremely important. We wouldn't be going to IFC and BOE if we didn't feel that these things were important, and that's why with this board's approval, these are the 4 that we're going forward on, and we're asking for all of them.
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion to,
Wait a second, before we go there, is there further, Jody wants to make a motion, but I want to know that everybody's had a chance to weigh in before we hear a motion. Okay, let's try a motion. Go, Justice.
Do you have a comment?
So when we vote.
Okay, go ahead.
We can hear.
This is high-tech stuff. It involves pushing a button. I just want to add to what Franny was saying. I saw in some of the supporting materials, there was some concern over the amount of time that it takes to document what you've been doing in terms of providing legal service to your clients. There's a lot of way to do this from a tech standpoint, but even if you have to do it by hand, you're not going to be able to develop any kind of weighted caseload for your caseload standards, which is the next step from the performance standards, without something like this. And I must say, having worked in both the public and private sector, I never saw a law firm go broke over keeping their time.
I agree with that. Okay, Julie.
I'm good.
You okay? Yep. Okay. All right. Joni, try a motion. We'll see if it's ready to roll. Okay.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to authorize Marcy and her staff to move forward with the request for IFC contingency funds as set forth in the memorandum dated February 13th, 2020.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Everybody's silent?
I'll second it, Laura Fitzsimmons.
Sorry. Yes.
All right. There's a motion and a second that we approve the recommendation, Marcy's recommendation to go to IFC. Is there further discussion on the motion?
This is Chris. I would just add that I'm glad that Marcy pointed out this is a startup cost. And so I think IFC will be fairly reflective of making sure that this office has the money to do what it's intended to do. Otherwise, the criticism will outweigh anything else. So I think that all of these items are absolutely imperative in order to get them up and running in the right way. And that we may be back. They had that discussion during session that IFC would be available. So I'm pleased that we're going to move forward with that.
Sophie, this is Bob from, is it permissible for members of this board to, for lack of a better word, lobby members of the IFC on this issue?
You know, I don't know. I think that's a question for the ethics committee.
Okay, all right.
Ethics, yeah.
All right. Any other comments down there? Any public comment, any on the motion? I don't see any. The record reflect that we're ready for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We got a donation coming.
That's correct. We have an individual that wants to make a $5,000 donation to our department.
Does he want to or he has to?
I'm
Both.
sure it's both. I
Okay,
believe it's both.
All right.
We are requesting permission to recommend legislation to create a special account so that our department can receive donations, gifts, grants, bequests. I've provided all of you with a copy of it, and unfortunately, right now in our statutes, we don't have a gift account. So we've been in contact with Director Brown at the Governor's Finance Office as to how can we take this $5,000? Are we able to take it without having this gift account? So we are dealing with that at this point in time. There's a lot of questions. Since we don't have this account, if we are able to accept it, we'll go back to the general fund if we don't spend it by the end of the fiscal year. So we're trying to get all of those answers, but the next thing that we need to do is when we can start putting forward bill draft requests, I am requesting permission from the board to submit the bill draft request to get that special account set up for our department.
Do you know if we're going to have, it's probably too early to say, but how many bill draft requests do you think we're going to have?
We don't know. This obviously is something that's come to light. There's other issues that we could bring forward to try and tighten up some language, and I think at the next board meeting we might have additional bill draft requests. What are you saying?
We need to prioritize and make sure we're not.
But at this point, we are we are trying to prioritize what needs to be done so that this is a definite go forward. And I believe at the next meeting, in addition to discussing our regulations, we will have some other bill draft requests we'd like to.
Been told that from the Department of Administration.
We have to find out who we can submit our bills with, so we are in the process of finding if we submit them to the governor's finance office and submit our board, the bill through them, but we are getting that information. So we'll have that information at the next meeting.
All right, all right. Seems like this is kind of a no-brainer. Justice Moppin. That's a good question. I don't know if they're deductible or not. Probably are. Going to municipality or government entity, yeah. So, you know, who's ever got to pay $5,000 is also getting reimbursed for the tax effect. Very good. All right, all right. Let's, any public comment on this issue? All right, motion's in order. Somebody from Las Vegas want to make a
I
motion?
have a question.
Questions
Excuse
are in
us.
order, and go, Professor.
Thank you. Oh, we're just wondering down here, Marcy, if there's any background on why this donation was made?
Professor Traum, I can send you the paperwork. It was basically a negotiation where charges would be dismissed if this negotiation, or if this donation was made. And I can send you a copy of that after the meeting.
Right, okay. It is a little concerning.
Okay, you ready?
Might be worth it.
Go.
Must not have been represented by that.
If you have money, you
This is
get your
Laura
charges.
Fitzeman.
You do if you can write the $1 million check.
In
Remember
light of
that guy?
that question and that answer, think we all need to see that, and we may also need a policy about whether or not we're comfortable with this. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a great thing, but if people are, you know, if this is a negotiating thing for dismissal of criminal charges and they're paying us, it might be wonderful and a great idea, but I think we need to think that through.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yes, agree down here.
we agree.
Fine, yeah.
So maybe the check shouldn't be cashed first,
Yeah.
right now?
I think right now, though, the motion is to deal with whether or
Yes.
not we should ask for a BDR to allow for the indigent to be able to accept gifts, right? And that's pretty standard through most of the agencies. They just they missed doing that legislatively to give them that authority. So it's almost a housekeeping piece, but we're all discomforted, whatever that word is. We probably should have a policy or at least discuss further, like in what type of circumstances, about that part of it.
Everybody got that one? Yeah, I don't know how often this is gonna happen, but I think it's word of the wise, and we don't want people buying justice, but, all right. All right. Yeah.
The state is the party. And so you pay something to a state organization. There's a whole bunch of bugaboos, which I'm sure it was on the professor's mind when she asked the question.
Sophie, you listen to all this?
Yes, and I would say, I don't know if anyone is aware, but the dental board was in trouble for that as well, as far as taking contributions to even charities that they were associated with, that if somebody had any sort of discipline, that they paid into the charity, and then their discipline was, yeah.
That's why we got rid of that dental board.
Justice of the Peace in North Las Vegas used to do that all the time.
Well, I think this is something we have to kind of keep an eye on, but on the other hand, I think from an administrative standpoint, you know, it doesn't hurt us to put in the law that we have the right to accept donations, because there may be donations from others that are not related to ongoing litigation, where people may want to just make a donation, so. Go, Rorsey.
And it also covers grants as well.
Grants. That'll be a good discussion too. We ought to all be looking for grants. Not a bad idea. All right. Anything further on the donation issue? Anybody?
Yes, Marcy, how are you going to respond to the Chief Deputy Special Public Defender?
I can forward a copy. So this, provided everyone on the board with a letter from the Office of the Special Public Defender, James Vitale, and he says that they have a case in which there was an agreement entered between the state of Nevada and their client requiring a payment of $5,000 to the Indigent Defense Fund. We were not involved at all in any of this negotiation, and we were only told after the fact of when it was signed. And it appears from the agreement that we've received that this individual enters into an agreement to submit a $5,000 payment to the Indigent Defense Fund, $2,000 to victims of crime, and some other conditions, and in exchange, a Category A felony was being dismissed.
Yeah, but I mean, that's for a discussion for another, I mean, that's an underlying discussion that is important, but I don't know that it's something we gotta keep an eye on, but it doesn't affect the motion, I think, to take the donation. We got somebody over here. What?
The only thing this is Laura Fitzsimmons. If we do have a limit on our bill draft requests,
This goes.
I'm not sure, you think it goes? We could have some very substantive bill draft requests involving who authorizes the fees. Remember, we talked about that last time. You have to, if you want an expert, you gotta go to the judge in the district. You know, in our quest to separate the judicial function and the defense function, you know, if we have three, I mean, can we say subject to future, this is a great idea? Because if we end up with a limit of 2 or 3 BDRs, I'm not sure this is the hot issue yet.
That's why I asked the question at the beginning here, is how many we're gonna have. I mean, the money, or just let them deal with it.
There's a difference on some prosecutions. A condition for probation as a condition of dismissing a charge. That's a wholly different breed of cat.
But this is.
Chris G, could I ask you a question? I think
Yes.
if we ask for a BDR, because I think Laura hit the nail on the head here. You know, we don't want to overburden ourselves with BDRs, particularly if we might get limited. But can we put a BDR in and then withdraw it?
By timeline, it depends on the timelines which they probably changed since I served, and I move and accept this, or is there a way to allow this piece to move forward? Maybe not even act until Marcy's able to find out, are we allocated 5, 4, 10, whatever. This could be a cleanup piece of legislation that a legislator could tack on. So you may not want to waste your important bills on something that's standard within NRS. And that could be easily fixed by someone just doing cleanup language in one of the committees, truthfully.
Marcy, did you get that? Go.
Yes, and I don't know if I could clarify. Basically, what I'm asking for permission is, I am compiling a list of legislative changes that we would like to make, and we will put them in the appropriate locations. I did not intend to submit just this as our bill draft request. I have to get permission from the board before we do necessarily any sort of legislative changes. So once they're approved, I'm putting them on a list, and then we will submit them hopefully all together. My understanding is that there's 2 different types of deadlines. One is a policy deadline for bill draft requests, and the others have to do with financial. Obviously, because this is a gift fund, I would assume that it would be in the financial deadline, but I wasn't necessarily requesting that this go forward as a bill draft request by itself. I just wanted to have it be one of
Okay, so if we
the
make a
ones that we
motion,
bring
we'll make a
forward.
motion to, subject to reviewing all the bill draft. We'll include this subject to reviewing all the bill draft requests that we may want to have this next legislative session take a look at. And I agree with Chris, but you know, if we're running out of bill drafts, we can always hopefully find a legislator that will carry it for us.
Exactly. And then I would suggest, and Marcy, it sounds like you're going in this direction, you're making a list of policy changes that they just missed last session that you need to really function as a department. So that you can put all of those in one bill. And there's no problem with that. I believe, though, the governor's office would have to review if certain things have tweaks or whatnot. But that's probably the best approach for her list to come forward as one BDR. But I don't know.
discussion? Anybody down south? Public comment?
Yeah,
Anybody?
Mayor Kroll, this is Drew Christensen, just
Hi, Drew.
to follow up with the discussion about the specific $5,000 check.
Yes.
I'm familiar with Mr. Vitale as one of our attorneys in our special public defender's office. I'll reach out to him because one of the concerns is as somebody who's been in the trenches, regardless of what the charge are, from the defense point of view, they zealously rep an individual. Yeah,
It's not the defense issue.
yeah, it's they're zealously representing their interest to resolve their case. And for whatever the charges were, and whoever the prosecutor was, whether the AG or the DA or they saw fit to resolve it to a dismissal with certain contributions to various entities. It sounded like, we were one, somebody else was one, and so on behalf of the client that Mr. Vitale represented, I think we should get some resolution as to not having this check hang out there so that this individual can get his case dismissed. Now, we have enough time probably by the next board meeting, but it's something that at least I can look into to get more information about circumstances behind it.
Yeah, I don't think we should reject this at all because I don't want to cause the defense to have the case be reinstated if they have a chance to have this dismissal. So at worst, I think we table it until Drew can check with Jim, and then we can find out what's really going on and whether other organizations can be filled in and still allow the dismissal.
Sorry, real quick, Drew, did you say Mr. Vitale's in your office?
No, he's in the Special Public Defender's office in Clark County. We both know him.
Okay.
And so,
No one supervises him?
No.
Okay.
well, yeah, Jonelle supervises him, but neither one of us supervise him.
Okay.
No
Okay.
one here
Hang
supervises
on,
him.
hang on a minute.
This
Could I
is
just-
Ann.
Could I just suggest,
Go. Are you finished down there? And I think was a question whether or not, was it the discussion whether or not the public defender who's ever assigned to this have their own trust account?
No.
Well, they
no,
won't.
no.
Yeah, they won't.
No.
could I
Go
just
ahead, Lori.
suggest that you get back to, because obviously you don't want the defendant hanging out there. I think and give it to somebody else. We're gonna miss this $5,000, but it's not the hot issue. It brought up an issue.
We don't have an account to
moving
put it
forward
into.
that we can deal with, but, we don't need to table this or anything else. All they have to do is put in Boys and Girls Club or whatever they want. We didn't know about this, and they didn't know we couldn't accept the money. So once they know that, they can fix that, I would assume, very quickly.
Bill Motto.
Well,
Now,
I just have this vision of who couldn't afford it. So they fixed that. So I've got this lifeline, this vision of the legislature having to pass a giant slush fund to make sure that indigents who are charged with crimes can pay their way out of a conviction with public funds.
I have a comment. This is Ann. If you're, whenever you're,
Okay. All
can I
right.
have I have a comment?
And Professor, go.
So the reality is that we resolve convictions every single day with money. And people who don't have money don't have the same opportunity to resolve those convictions the same way. And that's not an indigent defense problem. It's other people. It's the problem of the courts. It's the problem of the prosecution. It's the problem that we make justice financially based. So I think part of our responsibility is to just contribute transparency to the extent I think for this particular check we can't accept it because we can't deposit it. That's the answer to this problem. And then in the future, I think it's incumbent upon us, we probably should have a policy, but also to be transparent about what it is that we do so that there are no secrets here, because that usually tends to be the criticism locally, is that somebody got a sweetheart deal. There's actually nothing wrong with a sweetheart deal. It's just that everyone should get one. So.
All right.
You want to say, Drew, that you'll
Yeah.
talk and
Yeah, Mayor Crow, I'll talk to another entity. The county actually has an indigent defense fund within Clark County. So if we had the check cut to Clark County, I don't think there would be a problem, or if anybody on this board would have a concern with that.
Well, Clark County is a political subdivision of the state of Nevada, so that may not work.
But, yeah,
Well,
but
they have an account.
They could just change the name to Clark County
Yeah.
Indigent.
I think,
Actually, the Clark County Indigent Defense Fund is set up because in almost any negotiation in which the public defender has been assigned, the court has the right to assess a partial fee against the defendant as part of it. Now, it might only be $200, $300, but they actually can do that, and some of the courts do that, which is why we have that fund.
okay, well, I think where we are, you guys, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. We're gonna advise Defense Council, thank you for thinking of the Indigent Defense Board. We're not in a position to accept it yet. See if you could find another organization that fits your needs. And at the same time, I think we're okay to adopt, to put a BDR in with the rest of them that we might be able to pull back if we have to. But I think, just so because I think we need this for grants and stuff like that, and there may be times, where it's not related to an individual case, but it's related, somebody just wants to make a contribution. So I think that's where we are. If we could do a motion to that effect.
Mayor?
We have two comments, one or two comments down here. We have a comment down here. Thank you.
Okay.
Rob?
Could we instead of actually instead of suggesting they find another organization known to, can we just leave the message as,
Get a little
we are not.
get closer to the microphone if you could.
Yeah, can we go ahead and say, rather than say, go find another organization or anything to that effect, can we just say that we are not in a position to accept that? From what Franny was saying, there may be concern with us almost giving them advice to go find an organization that may put them in a sticky situation.
That's okay. Okay. All right.
Did you hear that?
I think, on the other side of this is I think we need to keep an eye on if this is a practice that, that Judge Moppin raised, if this is a practice that maybe, this does fit squarely in our bailiwick. But just to change the law or to add to the law our ability to accept a donation, we can do that without getting involved in somebody else's individual case. So, all right, you want to make a motion, Laura?
Yes,
Give it a try.
if we're comfortable just saying, I move what he said, I'm happy to do that. I think we all heard him and understood, and I don't expect there's going to be any nay votes. But the bottom line is, we're going to authorize Marcy to proceed with the request to the legislature so we can get money. And as to this individual case, we're just not, without saying, Ron, I think that's a good point, without getting involved, we just say, unfortunately, we can't legally accept this, and leave it at that. Is that it?
Yeah. And then we'll put this in, we'll take a look at this. When we know a little bit more about all the requests that we may want to bring. Because the more I listen to this, if this is a practice, the more I listen to this.
I have a comment here.
Mr. I just want to make sure, so the record's clean. Was there already a motion that wasn't voted on? No. So this is the only motion for this agenda item?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This is Ann Fromm. I second the motion.
Either I'm going crazy or, because it's hard to hear up here. And seconded it, okay.
Yes.
Sophie, and Sophie, I didn't hear you. Are you okay with all this?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Public comment on this issue?
No, but I have a question concerning the motion.
On the motion, discussions in order.
And my question is for the Deputy Attorney General. The item is agendized only as a discussion on the donation, although it is marked for possible action. Since it's limited to the donation itself, is it appropriate to include language in the motion that introduces a completely separate topic, which is to move forward with a bill draft request? Or is that a violation of the OML?
No, I think it's fine because the same, it's on the same topic regarding the donation as well. So your bill draft request, it includes a donation in there. I think the language included donations.
Okay. Well stated, Dag.
Yeah, it just said a discussion on this
Well,
donation.
I think it's important to have that on the record, so.
I,
that's all right.
and I was gonna ask Cindy, please make sure that goes into the record that we questioned whether or not, just discussion on donation met the minimum requirements of the open meeting law concerning a complete description of the requested action.
Got it, Cindy? All right. On the motion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Opposed, nay? Anybody? Okay, motion passes. All right. Good discussion all the way around. All right, let's take up item number 9, proposal for future agenda items. Anybody want to jump in? Marcy, you want to tell us what your game plan is, or you want to wait for that on future meetings?
The only game plan we have at this point is to hopefully have the bill draft requests at the next board meeting, as well as set the workshop for our regulations, so that we can get those finalized.
Okay, because you guys are going in April, not in March. You're going in April to the conference. Okay, all right. All right. Anybody want to add anything for future agenda items to be heard in March? Anybody? We okay? All right, then we'll move right along to item number 10, discussion and announcement of dates for future meetings.
Could I guess backtrack? This is Ann.
Hey, Professor, go.
I just tentatively wanted to have my students come, who've been volunteering this year on the law school's proposals related to this board. I don't know if that would work in March, so I'll check to see if that's something that would happen in March, because we're probably not meeting in April. It would be March or May. So I'll look into that and get back.
All right. Let Marcy know what you got there. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Any other discussion on this item?
Do you think?
We got questions. Laura, then Julie. Or Julie, then Laura. Go.
So earlier we were talking about the workshop on the standards, and I had written down that we were planning to do the workshop on March 26th. But then, so that would have to be, would we need to approve that today? Because Marcy, you mentioned on the next agenda talking about setting the workshop, but our next meeting would be.
Bring these answers.
We did discuss that.
Yeah.
I believe that there was a motion to we can have a workshop at the same time as our meeting. So we would be putting the workshop at the same time as the meeting.
And do you think if we start at 1 o'clock, that'll give us enough time?
We don't know the answer to that. It depends on how much public comment there is. But we just schedule it at 1 because I believe that's when the room is available.
This room?
As long as they don't kick us out at 5, we're all right.
Is there a reason why we couldn't meet over at the legislature? Money? Oh, do they bill us for that? Stop it.
We we are not a legislatively appointed. They're under the state of Nevada, so they have to. They play nice sometimes.
That
Marcy, just on that,
I'm speechless.
have you asked the Nevada Supreme Court to use they have a fabulous conference room in the basement, in the law library, and I'd expect they wouldn't be hamstrung like the legislature. So that might be a good free facility that may be more available, because I don't know how often.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, I'm thinking about local and county governments who may want to watch these.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, that also dovetails in with your internet access, because I believe they have it.
I think they do. All you have to do is call the AOC and they'll reserve the room for you. I mean, they use that room for lots of.
Yeah, I would at least give that a run. It may be more available and it may have the internet access that we.
YouTube, I don't know how reliable it is, but there is the ability to watch it online through this room, is my understanding. But we could see what's available and send out. If we can schedule for March 26th, we can see the availability and send out the rooms that are available and see where the chairman would like to have the meeting.
Okay, tell them Justice Boppin told us we could have the room. Retired Justice,
But
senior
I-
judge.
Am I the only one that thinks we should start in the morning? I mean, we just spent probably half an hour talking about a $5,000 check we didn't know about.
The problem is we can't get everybody
Oh, okay.
cranked. I think that's what, we discussed having it earlier in the day, then we kind of fell on 1 o'clock, I think. Right, that's what I remember anyway.
Yes, but if you'd like to schedule the workshop earlier, we can see which rooms are available at 9 a.m. and reserve it from 9 to 5, if that would be
Yeah, no,
more
but I think,
comforting.
when we do a workshop, we have to be here.
I'll speak on behalf of me and Julie. Selfishly, I have a 4-hour drive, so that would involve me staying overnight the night before, and if we go really late the day of the meeting, then I have to stay overnight again, which means I'm billing you for 2 nights. So.
Well, let's
that's my
try 1
problem.
o'clock. Go to the AOC, Administrative Office of Courts, see if we can get in there. And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to take a look down there to see if we got enough room for all of us. It's public as well. Take a look at that, and then we'll let everybody know where the next meeting is gonna be. But if we could find a room that's free, and that has internet access where we can have dialogue between north and south, that would be very helpful.
And you know what, I just happened to think, I could leave, it's not until 1, I could leave the morning of the meeting and stay overnight after the meeting. I'm too old to make those up and back trips anymore.
And Mayor, this is Jeff down here. Several of us down here appreciate the fact that it's scheduled for 1 o'clock, and actually for future meetings, when we're talking about that, our schedules, at least several of us, would be better off having afternoon meetings as opposed to morning meetings.
All right. Good. Okay, 1 o'clock it is.
If I can.
Julie, go.
Yeah, I appreciate what Joni's saying, but I think it's gonna go longer too. I have to agree with Laura, so I just wanna put that out there because the number of comments I got just in like a 4-day span of sending these standards out, I think there's a lot of interest out there. So I think we should just be aware of that. If folks travel in to discuss these, they're gonna wanna have the time to have a full conversation about them and a meeting and work through them, yeah. I would be willing to come in and the day before if we needed to.
Go, Bill. I'm sorry.
I'd like to go back to the donation business. I've just got on the IRS's website, and it says here that donations to federal, state, and local governments are deductible if it's solely for public purposes, and they give a couple of examples. It seems to me that it'd probably be wise to adapt whatever language in this bill draft request or in this proposed statute on deductions, that it marry up with the Internal Revenue Code.
Yeah, this came out of the other, this is a copy from other entities. Excuse me, but we can fix that, that's all right, okay?
I think that this is Chris. I think that what all the bill drafts will seek to do is just simply have a line item to allow for grant acceptance of grants and donations. I think the policy that would then delineate for staff what they wanted could reflect the IRS language and be more appropriate there. I don't think in statutorily, I can't think of anybody that's ever received money as a gift or donation had any other language other than that one.
All right. Any other discussion on future meetings? We'll do it at 1 o'clock. We'll try, this is one of those ones where, I know we want to move, and I know I've got people coming in and out, but it's also one of those meetings where, as Julie said, we have to give people a fair chance at speaking to what they want to say. So what we'll try and do is move it along as best we can, but at the end of the day, it may be one of those ones where we have to come back, because I don't want to shut off anybody's right to talk, particularly at this juncture of this board. We need to get everybody in here and get as much buy-in on what we've got as possible. So we'll start at 1 o'clock on the 26th, unless there's an objection to that. We will put we will deal with the workshop at the same time. If we can do it, Marcy, we ought to be able to make sure that the agenda items that we're gonna have are fairly quick, if we can say it like that, so that we can devote an entire 4 hours, if not more, to the workshop, okay? All right. Anybody have any problem with that? I don't hear any problem, okay. All right. And now let's take up the proposal to have the next meeting in June. You wanna do that now?
I believe it would be in May 28th, 2020 at 1 PM.
Okay, here, or at the courthouse?
Yes, wherever this agency or this board would
Right.
like to meet. we can see
Hopefully
the
we could use
availability.
the courts, the Supreme Court's telecommunications stuff. All right, on meeting in Tonopah in June? Everybody okay with that? Yeah. All right. Are you driving, Laura?
I'll drive. I've got the music.
I'm gonna bring the earphones, you know, and put it on. All right. So then, unless there's objection, we will meet in Tonopah on June 18th. You want to make that at 9 o'clock in the morning so everybody else gets to see what Julie and Joni have to go through? Excuse me. All right, 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock in Tonopah. Noon.
Noon down
Let's
here?
do noon in Tonopah. Noon in Tonopah on June 18th. Okay, everybody okay with that? All right. Now we'll move on to public comment. Anybody have any concluding public comment? Oh, Mr. Lambrose, you do. Come on up. Afternoon, John. How you doing?
Hi there. I promise my wife I'll be brief.
Move the microphone over a little closer to you.
Hello to my friends down in Las Vegas. Give their time to such a worthy cause. For those of you that don't know who I am, I've spent a lot of time on this issue, 13 years to be exact. And I want to give a shout out to a few folks in this room and down in Las Vegas. Starting off with then Chief Justice Bill Maupin, who had the foresight and the courage, along with his colleagues in the Nevada Supreme Court, to enter an order in, I believe it was March of 2007, that got this ball rolling. I want to give another shout out to my friend Franny Forsman down there, who was a complete pain in the ass to everybody involved in the Indigent Defense Commission. And here we are, Franny. And thank you all, particularly Chairman/Mayor Kroll, for taking the, I can't even think of a word for undertaking the task of chairing this very important commission. I know that you have a lot on your plate, and all I can say is I offer you my personal thanks, because it was really fun to watch you run this meeting.
As you know, the reason I got involved in all this law-related politics was because of you and your wife. You remember in 1980 when the fight was going on at the Supreme Court?
Oh, yes.
Called the Gunderson years?
The famous typewriter?
The typewriter?
The opportunity to spend some time with Jared and Marcy and Patrick, and you guys have a hell of a team here. These three folks, and particularly Marcy, I mean, as Tom Pitaro said about Michael Pachetta a long time ago, you captured lightning in a bottle when you got her. And let's just hope that this thing can move forward in a way that really will bring life to what we all had hoped it would do, and starting with, again, what the Supreme Court of the state of Nevada, in that order in March, had hoped that the Indigent Defense Commission and now this board would do. So, thank you and good luck at the workshop. I will be babysitting my 2 grandchildren so Laura can participate. Just wanted to let you know, next time, consult me on the scheduling stuff.
You got it, John. All right, all right. Any other public comment? You want rebuttal time, Franny? No? Joni's got it.
We offered it to her.
I'll be much shorter. I want to say that having worked for, well, over 40 years now with indigent defenders and with indigent programs, I am completely impressed with your staff. They have gotten more stuff accomplished in a short period of time than I would have ever expected. So I completely agree with John. And I thank John.
All right. So, everybody, are we ready to adjourn? There's a motion, and is there a second? Joni makes a second.
I did. I was looking for my on button.
I usually just ask, but we'll say on the motion, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.